Hey gang, I am on the Illinois Prairie Path, which is Naperville, Aurora, which is about 25 or so miles from Chicago to the west. And I am here at the location where Jeanine Nicarico's body was dropped by Brian Dugan. I think he was driving a blue Gremlin, and he had taken Janine. He was driving down the street of where Janine lived. She was homesick with the flu. She stayed home alone. Mom went to work, Dad went to work, her sisters went to school, and it was just by chance that Brian Dugan was knocking on the door trying to borrow a screwdriver. The second house, he was at another house. He borrowed a screwdriver from an old woman, and he looked in the window and he saw Janine by herself, and he was like, opportunity. So he kicked 3 times on the door, stomped the door in. He got her, he wrapped her in a sheet, and he put her in the car. How he got away with that, I don't know. Neighbors, come on. And he brought her down that way. Where I came from is Eola Road. Way down there where you see that car. He actually drove his Gremlin with her in it right down the bike trail. I'm sure it didn't look like this. It was probably just a worn path. And assaulted her sexually. I'm not going to say what he did. It's too terrible to even think about. And then he took a tire iron, hit her 5 times in the head and killed her, crushed her skull. This beautiful girl with big brown eyes. Can you imagine the evil, the selfishness, the devil? So he came to this spot. It is, I think, over here, and he dumped her body. He dumped her body here. It's really unbelievable. There's a ditch, kind of goes down, and this is where they found her. Really sad story. I'm going to get over to the cemetery and pay my respects to Janine. She was the first to be murdered, and then we're going to move to the next, to Donna Schnorr, who was the nurse that was killed. This is Saint Francis of Assisi, the patron saint of animals and nature. And I'm at Peter and Paul Cemetery, St. Peter and Paul Cemetery in Naperville, Illinois. And I am here to pay respects to Jeanine Nicarico, who was murdered along with 2 others by Brian Dugan. Who is Brian Dugan? Brian Dugan was a serial rapist and murderer that haunted this area and to the west in the 80s. And Janine was the first of his victims. Murder victims, that is, not other crimes. He was raping and burglarizing and doing all sorts of havoc. But Janine was the first victim of this guy, and sadly there were 2 other victims, Rolando Cruz and Alejandro Hernandez. Yes, they were gang members. Yes, they were immature young guys, cool guys, who got sucked into this whole mess when they were trying to find out who the murderer was. I mean, this Nicarico case, Janine, was massive when this happened. And I think it went, I know it went national, if not global. But these two guys, there was a reward, and they went in or one of them wanted to get the reward money, so they were kind of just loose lips making stuff up, and that was not the thing to do, because guess what happens? You get to be the victim. You get to be the outs for the police. In this case, the malfeasance and lies, a prosecutor, really bad people here. These poor guys, I'm not going to tell the story, but they went to prison and they were sentenced to death. And this alone was the reason that George Ryan, the governor then, although he didn't repeal the death penalty in Illinois, it got put on a moratorium. He, as everyone else, most everyone else, were mortified that they almost killed these two boys. And they were innocent. They were almost taken away on the gurneys, lethal injection. So let's talk about Janine. DeLeo. Anthony died in '96, and his wife died later in 2012. Janine is close by here. I'm going to read to you what was written about Janine from her parents, and this is from a memorial fund for literacy that they had founded. Jeanine Nicarico was a bright-eyed little girl with an endearing, dimpled smile and a sensitive, caring heart. She had grown to love school and reading almost as much as horses, puppies, gardening, baking, and make-believe games. Her joy for learning and her excitement about school blossomed only after reaching 4th and 5th grade. Unfortunately, her adventure through life was tragically cut short. And of course, this is Janine. Janine is here. And it says here, shining eyes, dimpled smile, caring heart, her gift of joy lives on in our hearts. Janine was 10 years old then, in 1983. Only 10 years old. It was a cold day in February, I can tell you that she lost her life. Rest in peace, Janine. Rest in peace. We are on Galena Road in Aurora, Illinois, which is about 40 miles west of Chicago. And it is on this road, at or near this spot, may even be this stoplight, that Brian Dugan, who is a serial rapist and murderer, probably one of the worst we've seen, saw Donna Kay Schnorr at this light on July 15th, 1984, in the early hours. And as she pulled out and continued down this road in this spot on Galena Road, he followed her. And he continued to follow her onto a road called Randall Road that is just ahead. And she made a right turn, and he made a right turn, and followed her north. And when they got to a place called what is near, or called the Mooseheart School, and there's no surprise that the initial attack happened here, because when you see it, I looked at it on Google Earth, I looked at what's beyond it, what's before it, north and south, and you have residential, commercial, retail, and then there's a stretch of road a mile or two right where this happened, where you can see that, you can see here on Randall Road why he forced her off the road. And that's what he did. He, quote unquote, hit her with his car. I hit her with my car and forced her off the road. And when we get to that spot, I will explain what happened. So you can see here that everything is kind of changing to a much more rural setting. And I'm going to check Google Earth back from the time. I'm betting this was just a 2-lane highway at the time. I might be wrong, we'll see. But you can just see that this is why he picked this spot. And this is where he came up from behind, and he just rammed her, not rammed her, but sideswiped her right off the side of the road, right in this area right here. And you can look around and you can see that there's just nothing around here. And what he did was once the car was immobilized, he got out and he ran up and he turned the ignition off, and she was trying to get out on the passenger side here of the car, and he just calmly walked. He turned the ignition off, reaching in from the window. And basically he jumped in, and she was struggling. She was struggling in the passenger seat, and he had said that, again, he was doing the confession testimony so that he could evade the death penalty, supposedly, but he restrained her, and then he forced her into his car. And he said that he wanted her wallet and he wanted sex, and that was kind of the main motivator. Fairview Cemetery, which is in DeKalb, Illinois. DeKalb, Illinois is about 65 miles straight west of downtown Chicago. And we are here to pay our respects to Donna Kay Schnorr. Donna Kay was, of course, one of the victims of Brian Dugan, who is still in prison, still alive, by the grace of I don't know who. Probably our governor who stepped down, Patrick Quinn, when he abolished the death penalty. That's who we can credit. Donna was a nurse from Geneva, Illinois. And I have to apologize for the wind. It's really windy, so I hate that background noise. But so that road, I'll tell you, it's Randall Road back in the day when this happened was probably not the best choice. It was a dark road. It's a dark road now in that area, so I could only imagine back then, but there were other options, considering that Donna was coming home from a party in the wee hours of the morning. And just interesting that that's where Brian Dugan was prowling away. Saw her at the light, and it's too bad that, you know, he picked the victim, and he waited for the right opportunity, just like a predator. And what's sad is, what I found sad is, I really looked for some background on Donna, and I really couldn't find much. You know, people focus on the killer. There's a lot of World War II vets here, guys. They focus on the killer, and I get it, I get the fascination, but at least, you know, a lot of the victims, there's just nothing. Nobody cares beyond the families. That's what I find really sad. Well, what I was able to find with some effort is that Donna was very independent. She was very athletic. And she loved to dote on her nephews. So she sounds like she was really a special person, really. And it's so often the case that the best die young. So this is the memorial marker for Donna. (1957) she was born, and Donna died in 1984, of course. I think that this is her parents, Clara, and father, who was a World War II vet, Bernard. Rest in peace to the family. I am 65 miles west of Chicago in a town called Somonauk, Illinois. And this is the location where the last of Brian Dugan's victims was snatched along with her friend. Her name was Melissa Ackerman. Missy was her nickname. And her friend Opal were right in this location right here. This was a gravel road at the time. And right down here, which you can still see, is the Somonauk School. Lots of kids around here. A perfect opportunity and location for the evil deeds of Mr. Brian Dugan. Right where this shed is, there were a number of tractors. This was a gravel road, like I said, and there was no shed here, no buildings. This was a John Deere store or location, and there were a number of tractors here and tires laying in the grass and the weeds. And right at this location, right here, Brian Dugan pulled up. I think under the auspices of asking directions, a ploy he would use, "I can't hear you, come a little closer." And he, right in the gravel, he first grabbed Opal and he stuffed Opal in the back. She tried to get out the other door right here, and of course the lock button was removed. She couldn't get out, but the window was open, and Melissa was screaming. He was grabbing her, and she could have run away, by the way. She did not run away. She stayed with her friend, which ultimately cost her her life. But she was screaming to Opal, "Hey, get out that window, go out the window." So I guess Brian had her by the ankle here, was dragging her, and she had tripped him, and all that commotion, Opal squeezed out that window, and then she ran. And where did she run? She just ran in the field here where these tractors are, and hid in a tire. And her last, and this is really eerie, her last view, she looked up, she peeped up as the car was squealing away in the gravel. And all she saw was poor Missy in the back seat, pounding on the window in the back windshield. And Brian Dugan just drove off down this gravel road and took Missy who knows where. We do know where her body was found, and I'm going to take you to that location next. Was at this location, and this is really a nowhere location, that Brian Dugan brought Melissa. It is a ways from Somonauk. That gravel road that we were on, it used to be a gravel road, led straight out, a little right-hand turn, and led right out to the highway. So you could just see he sped off. He was right on the highway, I think Route 34 here. And here it is. Here is the creek. This is where she was brought and left. you can see why he picked this. He probably saw it on the left out in the distance and decided it was far enough from Somonauk. And you could see these trees in the distance. So you could imagine him driving here. I don't know if this little inlet was, this little road inlet was here. It probably was. Looks like a bean field. Nearest thing is that granary over there. It's at least half mile to a mile away. So there's really just nothing here. And I believe that it was right here that she was in the water, and I believe she was under rocks, held down, and the autopsy did confirm that she was drowned. And of course she was found. You know, when you think about it, these type of locations maybe are not good. You think, oh, no one will ever come here, but these are precisely the type of locations that kids come to drink and smoke and hang out. And this is it. He drowned her here and left her here. I am at the cemetery where Missy Ackerman is buried. This is St. John the Baptist Catholic Cemetery. It's right near, if not in Somonauk, where she grew up. A lot of old gravestones here in this cemetery. A little clarification. Again, it was a little clarification. It was the sheriff who actually found, Greg Jacobson was his name. He's the one who actually found Melissa's body. The area had been searched twice before. They must have missed her. But he had a hunch, for some reason, that a body could be hidden there. He must have been by that area before. It is a little conspicuous when you drive by. Melissa's middle name was Love. Her nickname was Missy. And interesting here, use PVC piping to keep these old limestone memorials. I guess the edges, I don't know. Opal Horton was her best friend and almost a victim. They were there together. Opal is now, of course, older. She has kids of her own. But Missy had just lost her 2 front teeth, and her second row of teeth were just coming in. And very upbeat, fun, loving child. Her and Opal were actually they were at the school park playing on the swings and the monkey bars. Now, I don't think they have monkey bars anymore, but when I was little, if you're an old timer like me, you played on the monkey bars. And looking back on it, there were some big high monkey bars we played on, and they were probably pretty dangerous. I mean, I can think back, we could have taken some big falls. But just coming back from that, in sequence, the scene of where Missy was found, here at the cemetery, her grave is right up here where it says Ackerman. She's by herself here. It looks like, yeah. I don't know if she has any brothers or sisters, but I did talk to the gentleman, Jeff, who, thank you, Jeff, for flagging, making it really easy on me to find this grave, and I will GPS it. Jeff put a flag here for me, and he takes care of things here. And he mentioned that the Melissa's mother and father will be buried here with her. What a beautiful girl. June 12th, 1977. I was a senior in high school. June 18th, 1985. And there are some beautiful flowers here. These are real flowers that someone has brought. And a little funny guy. So, well, we pay our respects to Missy. Hopefully she is resting in peace.